Hello, everybody. How are you doing? I'm so glad that you all could join us today for 10 Tech Myths Skillcrush Shattered in its first 10 years. Uh, I am Jordan, your host. Before I dive in, I just want to make sure that you can see and hear me and see the slide. If you could just drop in the chat, yay, nay, yes, no, happy birthday to us. I see excitement already. Let's see. Okay, looks like we're live. I'm getting confirmation. So if we look good, we sound good, then let's get into it. Just to start, my name is Jordan. I am Skillcrush's integrated marketing manager. Just some quick facts about me. I'm a dog owner. I'm a dog trainer. I'm a musician, video game fanatic, candy lover, and nap enthusiast, particularly during movies. And on the screen, I have my two beautiful dogs, Chuchi and Yuka, and they're also in the room next to me. So hopefully, if you hear any barking, then you know who's the culprit. And so if this is your first time joining us, just some housekeeping, feel free to use the comment section to share your enthusiasm, ask your questions. At the end, we'll have a Q&A portion for our entire panel, and then also we'll try and get to them throughout the presentation. And I thought, just to get us started, in the chat, if you could, just share what brought you here today, whether or not you are an alum and a student, someone just here to learn more about what Skillcrush has done in the past decade, where you're calling from, and which tech myths have you heard. I know that I saw, let's see, UK, we have Greece, Tennessee, Florida, Canada, Atlanta, Chicago. I don't know if anybody's in Brooklyn, but that's me. Let's see. Yeah, we got a lot of students, a lot of alums. Yeah, exactly. Fellow nap enthusiasts in the building. I love it. Brooklyn, there we go. In the Break Into Tech program currently. Incredible. Well, then I am so happy to have you all here. And obviously, we are here for a reason today. And I'm incredibly excited to have you here because you are in the right place. You are here to celebrate Skillcrush's 10-year anniversary. That's a whole decade. You know, in 2012, tech boot camps and online education was still in its infancy. So a lot has changed, and I'm really excited to get into what's changed, what hasn't, and what the future of online education, particularly at Skillcrush, is like. So today we'll be going over which tech myths continue to prevail. Is there any truth to them? How have employer sentiments on coding boot camps changed? And then also, of course, how our community works and how it's been getting students into tech and will continue. And I am incredibly thrilled because we have a very filled panel. We have Otto Benier, our CEO and founder, who most of you have known if you've come to any of our previous webinars. We are joined by Break Into Tech and Get Hired alum Jenny Williams, who is a current software engineer at Walmart Global Tech and a Skillcrush alum. We have Noel Arzola, who's usually doing the behind the scenes work, but has graciously stepped forward to share some of his experience as a front-end developer and also as alum. And then we have the incredible Anne, who is our lead development instructor and alum as well. So I'm super excited. Before we get into the myths and about Skillcrush, I have just kind of like what's been going on, like where are we numbers-wise? What's the data set? So a lot has happened since 2012, but as an overview, we've introduced over 350,000 people to digital skills through Camp Skillcrush. We have over 20,000 Skillcrush alumni, and 90% of them receive job offers within 180 days. And on average, the salary increase is 30,000, give or take. And one of the things that makes me most excited and passionate about working at Skillcrush is that I think Skillcrush was built by a team of diverse people who lived on the outskirts of traditional tech, or and I think that we're really invested in making sure that we've built a learning environment where you could be seen, be heard, and be yourself. And, I think that that's so important to making sure that tech's for everyone. And so 80% of our students identify as women or gender non-binary, and 45% of our students identify as Black, Indigenous, or people of color. On top of that, we also have, in the past decade, trained students from over 50 United States and across 123 countries around the world. And fun fact is our team is also located from all around the world. So all that to say is a lot has happened. And because we turned 10 this year, let's talk about the past decade in tech and where we are going. And of course, I thought we couldn't start with none other than the incredible Ada Banir, who is the Skillcrush CEO, founder, and the one who started it all. Ada, how you doing today?
I am doing good. I thank you, obviously, or thank you so much for helping organize this. It's so fun. And I'm so excited to have Jordan running this webinar. Oh, I was about to say, and I have to give warning that there's going to be a little elf, but I actually think he just started yelling for me. His timing is impeccable. Okay, yeah, I have to go get him, so I'll be right back. Jordan, I apologize.
No problem.
What you expected, or maybe
no problem. Take your time.
This is Skillcrush in action.
So, while Ada ropes her son, who is currently in full elf mode, I did have a chance to see what some of the tech myths are. So let me scroll through here real quick. Let me see. So for those who haven't yet, which tech myths have you heard just about like tech boot camps in general? I have a bunch that come to the top of my mind, but I'm trying not to feed my thoughts into it. Let's see. Love the inclusiveness here. Other boot camps are not like that. Feel at home here. Incredible. Amen for placement. Let's see. One big family. I'm interested in learning about switching to a career in tech at the age of nearly 40 and over. Yes, absolutely. I literally have Ada coming back to jump into some of that. Let's see. People are passionate about the doggos and the streamers. Thank you. The streamers were very hard to put up and not get taken down by running dogs. Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Here we go. You need a degree. Yeah. You need to be math-minded. Absolutely. Tech is a boys' club. Yeah. And it slowly is changing. Slowly but surely. Absolutely.
Sorry, I'm back.
No,
the elf has been given a small device.
It sounds like a Skillcrush, like holiday special, like roping in the elf.
Yes, exactly. Yes, the elf has been given a cookie, and I can't promise that he won't make more trouble, but at least he'll be occupied for a little bit.
It's okay.
Yeah, so sorry. If you could recenter me, where are we at?
I was going to ask you, after being a decade in the tech field and the game, if I would have shown you those numbers from the previous slide about how much we've grown and how many students we've trained 10 years ago, would you have been shocked? Would you have been surprised to be here?
I definitely would have been surprised to be here. I think it's funny. I have thought about this a lot, actually. It's been interesting to me how much reaching this milestone has been an impetus for reflection. And, like, it's like, what is age but a number, right? But then you're like, oh, actually, it turns out like hitting the 10-year mark as a business owner is a very interesting experience. And I think also, like we hit 5 in 2017, and then obviously the last 5 years have been quite adventurous. So it comes at a funny time. And I think it's sort of like, like I don't know what I would have thought. Like, I think that, when you are in the tech world and with it, like, I think I would have been both impressed and just not known how to contextualize the numbers, like, I think that when you start out in a business and also in the tech world, I think the tech world kind of skews things, right? Like, we all sort of measure ourselves against the, like, Facebook, Amazons of the world. And I think that creates like a really unnatural benchmark. So I think, like I'm not even sure how I would have made any sense of it. Yeah. Did I answer that?
No, yeah, absolutely. I think that
I'm really proud of it when I look at it now. I'm really happy with what we've done, and I'm proud and thankful to be here now, like I think
10 years ago, I don't think that we would have been able to predict how much tech would have grown, especially after 2020, when almost everything moved remote and then every company required a tech that much more. It just kind of like exponentially kept increasing. So I don't think 10 years ago we could have guessed where we would have been now. And I guess like looking back over the past 10 years, like what are you proud about, like regarding Skillcrush's growth?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think, something that I don't get an opportunity to talk about a lot publicly is that, running Skillcrush is like, there's it's not even like public facing mission, but it is like, there's the part of like what we do as a company, which is like the mission driven part, the part where we, train our students in these skills and help them get jobs and all of that. But at the same time, because we are a startup and we're new and we're also trying to live our, the same, I guess, let me put it this way, like the same reasons why we have this mission-driven orientation as a company really influences how we actually build the company and what kind of like ideals we try to live up to within the actual company. And especially since we're invested in work and all these things. And so I think for me, it's like really there. It's really like, the things I'm really proud of fall into those two buckets of like, I'm so incredibly proud of all the students that we've had the opportunity to work with. And, like every time we hear from students, I saw somebody who posted that they were an alum from a while ago and that they're still working in tech. And for some people, we help them get a job in tech, and then maybe that isn't actually what they're doing now, but like they're doing something else that is meaningful to them. Like all of those kinds of stories. I mean, Noel and Anne, obviously they'll talk more, like having Skillcrush students.
Yeah.
Like working at Skillcrush means the world to me. Like all of that. But then there's also this whole thing of like the internal company and the ways in which we run the company, and sort of being able to the moments in which there are wins internally where we feel like we can live up to the ideals that we believe in internally as a company and be sort of like a change agent in that context is also really meaningful.
You're most proud of our mission and the fact that you feel like we've been trying to live up to it like the past 10 years.
Yeah, and I think the fact that we have gotten better at living up to it. Like I just think that like doing this kind of work is really complicated and imperfect, and it's an ongoing opportunity for improvement. And I think like, I think I'll just speak for myself, but I think this is probably true of a lot of people. I think we all tend to, I should speak for myself. I tend to have unrealistic expectations of what can be achieved in what time frame, and getting to this 10-year mark has been really humbling in terms of like me sort of like setting that or recalibrating that.
Yeah,
I guess humbling, but also really like affirming, and recognizing that like things have like improved and change has been enacted, even if it happened at a scale that wasn't necessarily what I had, what I naively expected when I set out 10 years ago. So
yeah, and knowing you professionally and personally, actually, that was a great segue, because I know that like on the screen, I have the Skillcrush mission, which is to improve the quality of life for all of our students, particularly those marginalized by gender, race, and age, through digital empowerment and skills to build higher earning and more flexible careers. And knowing you personally and knowing Skillcrush, this is like core to our belief in how we build the curriculum, to the people we hire, to the way that we interact. So I guess for you, and when you create this mission, why did we specifically seek to serve particularly those marginalized by gender, race, and age?
Yeah, I think to be perfectly transparent, that is a newer addition. So we weren't that specific originally in our mission statement. We just said to empower our students with skills to enter higher earning and more flexible careers. And at that time, our focus was really like the genesis of it. Like I think for better or for worse, I was a perfect example of one of those people who kind of solved my own problem or solved my own problem and then was like, hey, maybe other people have this problem. And I could help them with what I learned. And so I think, when I originally so Skillcrush was originally just a side project and it was called Digital Divas.
It was a flashcards game or
something?
It
was like
Right,
and it was not something I ever took seriously as a business. And I was at the time pursuing other business opportunities. And then it was just one of those things where it was like, I would like sort of be in situations where I'd be pitching my other business ideas and nobody took any interest. And then I'd be like, oh, and then there's this like art project kind of thing I'm doing on the side. And everyone would be like, oh, that's so interesting. Tell us more. And so that was like a good experience for me of learning sort of market research and like seeing, like it's businesses to me like a very complicated, experience of like right idea, right place, right time. You know what I mean? And those variables are very complicated and navigating that. But I mean, ultimately it was great for me because it was the passion project. But it was, anyways, I think I, when I look back, like, I think my focus was on women and in a way that wasn't really super intersectional. Like it was a little bit intersectional, but like, I think like that's been a big learning is like really bringing other, sort of other types of identities into the mix and making sure to be really thoughtful about those too. And that's where we got really specific about it.
Yeah. I mean, I appreciate that. And I like what attracts me to Skillcrush is the fact that like there's this belief that tech is for everyone and that like this is such a good field for those who are typically underemployed or underutilized, especially for marginalized people who like live on the outskirts. Like there's so much freedom and flexibility and choice in what you do. And so all that's being said is that actually goes into my first tech myth, which is one that I think that you hear often, which is you have to look a certain way in tech. Like, I mean, even in the chat, even in webinars previous, we've had hour-long conversations, what if I have kids? What if I have had a million jobs? What if I've never held a job? There's so many questions. So you've interacted with hundreds of students. What is your response to tech's most popular myth, which is you have to look a certain way to be in the field?
I'm like, I built a company to try to prove that that's not true. No, I mean, it's interesting. I guess the thought that what comes up for me when I read this or think about this is like, I think, the inspiration for Skillcrush came from the dissonance that I experienced personally as somebody who transitioned into tech, as somebody who is like, not, I mean, that said, like, I am a privileged white person, so like I'm not that far off of, you know what I mean? Like, the mark, but I'm a woman. But nonetheless, I did that is enough, as it turns out, to make you feel other, and question whether or not you fit. But then I did sort of manage to surmount that hurdle and enter tech. And what was so shocking to me and ultimately led to the genesis of Skillcrush was the sort of like that impression that I'd had and then the lived reality of tech. And it's not to say that there isn't plenty of sexism and all of the isms in tech, because there are for sure, and I have absolutely experienced them, but at the same time, so much of the working conditions were so like, I don't know how to put it, even just like accessible and friendly, you know what I mean? Like flexible schedules, like so much opportunity, you couldn't believe it, you know, like I worked with somebody in my first company who was paraplegic and only had the use of like 3 fingers, you know, and I worked with him remotely, and I knew he was in a wheelchair, but I didn't know how profound his like paralysis was until like a year into working with him, you know, and so just stuff like that. I was like, holy shit, this is like, excuse my language, but like it was so incredible. Like I was just like so inspired by that, and I was like, there are so many people who could benefit from this type of work, and like they are perfectly capable of doing it, and it's also really interesting, and there's so much opportunity, and like it has the opportunity to solve so many structural challenges that, you know, people in different sort of, you know, communities struggle with. So,
and then 2 final ones is just kind of like, I know that math and computer science always come like as the main second question after what about my background. So what is your response to people saying, you know, do they need a degree? Do they be good at
math? Math, no. There's actually, and you know, I think Noel and Anne can speak even better to this. I think, you know, I probably do more math than they do on a regular basis in my position. But I think, yeah. So, and then the data says no on computer science too. I think also something that is a big misconception is a misunderstanding of what is taught in computer science programs. And I think that's like a very confusing aspect. But I'm like, how are we on time, Jordan? Because I have another story to tell, but I don't want to take up all the time.
We have like 1 more minute.
Okay. So I have an amazing executive coach, and he told me a hilarious story, which is that he has a computer science degree from Carnegie Mellon, and hopefully it's okay that I'm sharing the story. I won't identify him, but anyway, basically his story. So Carnegie Mellon, like one of the fanciest computer science programs you can graduate from. And his story is that he got his first job, got there on day 1 or whatever, the first week, and they were like, cool, you got to like build this thing, and it needs to have a database. And he was like, a what? A database? I've never done that before.
Yeah.
And like, and it's like, that is like hilarious. Like, I wish like Anne and Noel could back me up here. They will back me up that like, I mean, you will learn how to set up a database at Skillcrush. We will teach you how to do that. But the moral of the story here is like that, like, it wasn't that practical what he was learning. And so then what happened is that like, ultimately it wasn't a big deal. Like his employer just sent him to some, you know, database 101s class, and he learned how to set up a database, and it was fine. But it's just a good example of the disconnect between the practical skill and the theoretical learning that you do.
And having worked in like coding schools and tech education and for the past couple of years, like that's one of my favorite pieces of online learning, is because like you're learning very like tangible skills relative like to exactly what you're looking for. And speaking of having Anne back you up, I actually wanted to bring one of my faves to the stage.
And one of my faves, not that I'm
lead development instructor. Anne, how are you doing today?
Let me find my I am unmuted. Yay. Hello. How are you doing today? I'm doing great. Thank you for asking. How are you?
I wanted to take a second because I know that we have a special visitor on your mic with the new hat that just for this webinar. So can you want to do the honors?
Yeah. This is Harriet. Harriet, would you like to say hi?
And
she's a little bit shy. Here we go.
I just learned that there's a reason behind it. The rubber. I thought it was just because you like ducks, but the reason is.
Yeah, well, I mean, I do like ducks, but yeah, there is a thing that's known as a rubber duck debugging in the field, and it's the idea that taking the time to break down and explain in plain language a problem to something, usually an inanimate object of some kind or a duck, can help you just solve it by clarifying that, or, you know, at least giving you a new direction to explore, you know, and I guess at the very least, formulate your question super clearly if you need to go ahead and ask somebody else or post in a forum or something. So this is my little helper here, Harriet.
That gives me a whole new appreciation for Harriet. And for those who have not met Anne, Anne is our lead development instructor next to Anne's collection of animals and kids. Anne has spent the past 10 years developing and teaching classes in coding and interacts with students, helping them with portfolios, leading weekly Q&As, making sure no questions go unanswered. And so for you, Anne, as someone who works with students daily, like what are the most common concerns that you hear regarding like entering the tech field?
I mean, I hear a lot of them. I think one that I hear often is like, am I going to need to just like remember all this stuff like in my head, like by heart? I'm going to have to like pull it out of my mind when I'm working somewhere. And like, do I get to look things up? And the answer is, of course, you get to look things up. Like we all look things up all day long. That I feel like that's half of the job. So I just want to make sure that that is like super normalized. And in fact, I think it's like everybody, no matter their experience level, from super beginner to senior, is spending a bunch of time referencing past projects, looking at code, documentation, and just browsing on Google or wherever else they want to search to help, solve problems. So this is like a very normal part of the work. And in a way, I think it levels the playing field because we're all sort of on that same page of learning and just trying to deal with the thing that's in front of us and moving from there. So that's probably one of the most yeah, sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, would you say as part of the fun of being in tech is kind of like it's ever expanding and growing,
you're
learning and playing around?
You know what? I have not been bored once. And for me, that's like huge because I've like, if you could see my long and winding road before I got here, I did so many things. I was like, I'm bored. I did something else. I'm bored. But now since I've been in tech, it's like so interesting. There's always something new to learn and something you can immediately apply and discover. So many rabbit holes to fall into. It's almost its own problem, but it's not the boring problem. Yeah.
And so you kind of alluded to this in your response, but you kind of talked about how like it's a good field that's leveled and that like it's an approachable field for people of all backgrounds. And I think when people think of online schools and online education, we always have this, like, it's intimidating because you have this fear that you have to go about it alone, that it has to be super rigid, it has to be businesslike, and you're going to be just like every night, like no social life or anything. So what I think contributes to Skillcrush magic is that we try and remove the barrier of it being fun, of it being a chore, and make it fun and interactive. But for you, what are some ways that you think that like Skillcrush makes learning both approachable but also serious?
Okay, well, we cover a ton of ground. So there's a lot that we're going to look into, but we really break things down into like small, manageable chunks so that you can absorb things a bit at a time. And there's a ton of supportive like material, rich visuals and videos and quizzes and practice projects and all sorts of great stuff there. The community is a big part of it and the kind of support that you get here. But I think that it's the way the material is presented. It's just so friendly, right? It's friendly, it's approachable, it's fun, it's accessible. I think that it taps into that fundamental joy that is the learning process, the joy that comes with acquiring skills that can make a difference both in your life and in the life of other people. I think that we're able to tap into that in a way that hopefully feels like it's like your fun best friend who is like a little farther ahead than you in tech and is super happy that you're getting into the field and wants to teach you everything that they know. And that is relatable. At least I hope so.
Yeah. And I see that a lot of people are really loving the fact that you said you won't be bored in this field. I think that really resonated with a lot of people in the chat because we all know that feeling of having to go and log on and like having to just drone out another day and having fun. And I guess for those who might be joining us for the first time, who might not be familiar with how an instructor interacts with someone going through an online school, can you just give like some just like overview of like how you interact with students and like the community and like when they can expect to interact with like our instructors?
Yeah, well, there's lots of support vectors that you get here. We have a Slack community, a student Slack community. So the instructors are there. We try to get back to you as quickly as we can in that medium. We also have email that you can just send questions to. We have Q&As every week that we're happy to do that are live like this. And we can do things like sharing our screens and like together try to come up with a solution. And what else do? We do mentor sessions. I feel like I'm probably forgetting something. There's so many different ways. It's very cooperative.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've
Yeah.
as part of the Slack community group that it's always, and there's different channels for different pieces of like the core.
Yes.
You can always talk with the instructor.
That's right.
And set up, those one-on-ones. And speaking of how instructors play such a vital role and how great our alumni are, I actually wanted to take a second to introduce our next guest. And yes, learning can use jokes. It doesn't have to be rigid. It can be pink, it can be blue, it can be anything. I wanted to introduce Jenny Williams. Jenny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great. This is my favorite time of year, so I'm glad to be here. I have the hat to prove it. I'll put it on later.
I know we were talking about the World Cup, but we won't get into that.
No.
We'll do another webinar.
Another webinar.
So I'm excited to introduce you because from what I've learned, you actually hold the record for the shortest amount of time to complete the program. Like that was... And so
I did not know that until I was invited to be on panel, but I'm happy to hold that trophy. That's very cool.
part of that stems from your background as a teacher. Would you say like in education?
Yeah, as a teacher, you need to be a lifelong learner. Period. And so when I decided to transition into tech, that insatiable need to learn just kind of translated. And then in addition to, I've always been fascinated by technology. It was always on the periphery. And then I decided to bring it into my full-time world. So I think that's how I ended up finishing the fastest, I suppose.
And okay, so I was doing some research on you. And
no.
Yeah, no.
Not true, I promise.
And so you have 15 years plus in education.
And yeah.
You have a master's in special education and teaching, correct?
I do. Yes, I do.
Okay. So a lot of you have a very you have a large background in education. So what eventually made you want to pivot into tech? Was it like overnight? Was it a long decision? Like what eventually led you to make that decision to change careers?
Yeah, that's a super great question. So I've always had a duality to me. It's always been education and technology. I like to bless my mom's soul. She's not with us anymore, but she volunteered me to be a tutor to a friend of mine at 13. And I never stopped being in education after that. I'm much older than that now. But I've always loved fixing computers. So even before computers were home, but when they were only like big rooms and of servers, before desktop computers, I just love fixing things. And then when I got my first desktop computer, I just couldn't put it down. So it's always been around me.
Yeah.
But I also love to teach. I love to share my knowledge. I love to see people succeed. So I guess you would say I was wrestling with the two. But what finally made me want to transition, someone mentioned in the chat, and I thought that was really important, was really my mental health and the conditions. So I was a public school teacher for 4 years. That was my career before switching. And, as most of you know, there's a lot of challenges in public education with funding and resources and just manpower. And then the pandemic kind of exacerbated it. And I just could feel, just to be honest, I could feel my spirit kind of draining a bit. And as much as I loved education, I was starting to get to the point where I wasn't looking forward to going to work anymore because of all the challenges I was dealing with. And I knew I always had technology as my back pocket. And I finally had enough friends and family say, you know, it's the right time. There's so many jobs out there. It's time, because people were worried about me. I'm a happy person, as you can sense, probably. And it was starting to get into my spirit. So I made the transition. I found Skillcrush and just fell in love with what I saw. The curriculum, the teachers,
Yeah.
the positive energy also was very, very attractive. So,
A lot of hearts. And a lot of people asking, how long did it take you, Jenny?
I don't know. You guys have to tell me exactly. I thought it took me 3.5 months ish, I think. I don't know though. You
Around
guys
the time.
told me I had the record. I didn't know I had
We
any.
can look it up. I can always.
Yeah, I think because we can do this. I forget what I have a 5-month number in my head, but I think that's from start of program to getting the job.
Getting the job, yeah, because
right?
it took a while to go through the interview process. Yeah, so
Yeah.
5 months altogether sounds right,
Yeah.
because I think I started in about January and I was hired by May 8th. So that does sound right. I think 5 months from starting the program to starting my job. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Sounds about right.
And so now that you are a software engineer at Walmart Global Tech, would you say that career change was rewarding? Like, how are you feeling now as compared to before?
It literally has rejuvenated my life. To be honest, getting to work from home. I only have to go into the office 1 day a week, and that's been. It really was rejuvenating. It still is. I think. I miss parts of being in person, but man, being at home and not having to do the commute, being at home with my family, being able to eat lunch, to work out more regularly.
Yeah.
All of those things were because of the job.
Yeah.
So, and then of course financially, you know, I'm not gonna sugarcoat it. We're way better in tech
Getting paid.
than teaching. Yes. Yes, it's completely worth it. It has changed my perspective. It really changed my perspective on my life. It changed my life goals. And it actually is going to make me a better educator. I teach now. I teach software development now, and I also have an after-school program in mind to help address some of the needs that I saw when I was a public school teacher. But because of this job and because of the flexibility and because it's mostly remote, I have the possibility to do that, where I can, you know, work from home and then go teach, you know, go run this after school program. So it's changed the trajectory of where my life is going. So
yeah, I mean, I'm so happy for you, and you are an incredible person and deserve everything in the world that is coming your way and continues to come your way. So first and foremost, like, I love your story. And so one of the things that I think most people ask first before joining any online tech boot camp or coding school is this boot camp actually going to help me land the job? Like, if I'm going to invest this much into this program, is the investment going to be worth it? So when you see this myth, a boot camp won't land you a job, I guess, in tech, what are your thoughts on that? How did Skillcrush play a role in like you actually landing and securing employment?
Sure. That's ridiculous. Obviously, I'm a living testimony to that being true. I can point you to several people on LinkedIn that show that that's not the case. I am older, by the way. I'm 30. Oh, well, I'm 39. So I'm 39. And I did this transition this year. So don't let age.
You know, she's telling the truth because she didn't know how old she was.
I had to think about it.
So you didn't find that in your research. But anyway, but don't let anything get in the way of you pursuing what you want. So here's the truth. A boot camp by itself will not land you the job. Effort's going to land you the job. And what I really appreciated about Skillcrush's curriculum is that you guys say that. You guys don't sugarcoat it. You guys don't pretend like just having a boot camp certificate on your LinkedIn profile is going to get you the job. You guys really do talk about the effort that is required to do it. So I won't give away all your secrets. I hope you guys all sign up for Break Into Tech. That's the program I'm talking about. But they have tried and true strategies that involve a lot of effort, a lot of work. And I'm not going to lie to you guys. You have to want it. You really do have to want it. It's going to require all of your spare time. So the reason I finished early is because every single waking moment that I was not actually teaching or in a meeting, sometimes during meetings, don't tell anybody, I was doing curriculum, or I was sending an application, or I was reaching out to someone on LinkedIn. It requires effort. It really does. So I want to debunk the myth just to say a boot camp does give you the skills and the experience and the portfolio to land you a job. But being in a boot camp by itself will not land you a job. You have to want it. You have to put in the effort. You have to put in the work. But if you do, there are really serious, tangible rewards at the end of the rainbow.
Yeah, I guess one of the things that you had me thinking also is just that, like, one of the reasons why I think Skillcrush is so different too is because, like, there's a lot of support systems to hold you accountable to,
Absolutely.
like, and like to help you throughout that process. So like if you are getting ready for the job application or to get ready to apply, like there's always people there checking in with you. And also I think the beauty of it is that because it's online and available year round, it kind of is flexible. It's like whatever your schedule actually is. And I know that, like, in the chat, there was a couple questions about how much time, if any, outside of the Break into Tech program, did you spend, like, kind of like developing your skills before you started the job search?
A portfolio is key. So your portfolio is LinkedIn. Front end is going to require a website of some sort, and also your GitHub, developing projects, which Skillcrush does. I did several on my own as well. So I did supplement what I got in Skillcrush to kind of beef up my professional profile, but it really is what will get employers past the fact that you don't have a CS degree or that you don't have all those years of experience, all those myths y'all talked about at the beginning. What gets employers past that is demonstration of your abilities. And what does that is really your work. So your portfolio is going to be crucial, absolutely crucial. GitHub, great advice is to be active on GitHub, especially when you're applying. Make sure you're contributing and committing things. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, join Skillcrush every day because they look at those things. So demonstration of your abilities is what's going to get you the job too. So they will look past the fact that I was in education for 15 years and say, you know what, she could do the job. So let's hire her. So it really is showing people, right? Walk the walk. They don't care about talk. They care about walk. So portfolio and your professional profile are absolutely crucial. Absolutely.
And before, I know a lot of people are asking questions about, like, mental health and how to actually the online school. Before introducing our next guest, I did want to ask this question. Sarah asked, did you have any down moments where the Skillcrush community helped keep you going?
Oh, so many. Oh gosh, yes. I was working a full-time job, a part-time job while I was doing Skillcrush, because as a teacher, you can't just have you can't just be a teacher. You have to have some sort of supplemental income. That's just the reality of it. And then I was doing Skillcrush on top of that. So absolutely. What really helped me get through is when I was in Break into Tech, Bedelia was a godsend. But the great thing is there is always someone that's an email or a Slack message away, always. Whether it's another student, one of the coaches, the career coaches, there's someone 24 hours a day. There is someone in the Skillcrush community that's available to pick you up and keep you going. There was a part of the curriculum that I was endlessly stuck. I spent a whole week on one of the projects, and I kept emailing, and they would always respond and help me find that breakthrough on that project to help me finish it. So there is always someone that's a message away, 24/7, 365, or 360, depending on the year.
And I know that time is dwindling, so I'm actually going to there's tons of questions for you, Jenny. You're very popular. I'm going to introduce Noel, and we'll bring him back at the end just so we can get through one more tech myth before we bring it in. So we will get to that. Did you see other bootcamp graduates in the field? But I did really want to introduce our next guest, our last guest. Please drop in the virtual chat some emojis, some applause for Noel Arzola, our front-end developer at Skillcrush. Oh, Noel, how you doing?
I'm doing really great, thanks. I'm glad to be here and discuss some tech myths.
Yes, incredible. I am honored because I know that you are a busy person, a father who loves dad jokes, woodworking, 10 years of experience, leading tech teams. So he's a great person to ask your questions to. So Noel, you've been listening to this entire webinar, sitting behind the scenes. So as you've been listening, have any of the myths resonated with you, like that you commonly hear? Like, did any of them strike you as like one that you hear most often?
Yeah. So absolutely. From the standpoint of being an engineer that's both Black and Puerto Rican, one myth that I can relate to, like, kind of being sussed about was the myth that you have to look a certain way. You know, that was a big one for me. But I think the biggest one so far out of all the ones we discussed was definitely that a boot camp won't land you a job. Even though I've been at this for a while, you know, on paper, my tech education, so to speak, it's comprised of free resources and buying books and breaking the tech through Skillcrush. You know, I majored in political science and pre-law. That's my degree. It's not computer science. I started learning Python out of a book. But I say all that to say this. I've interviewed for engineer positions with half of the top 5 tech companies. I know at least 2 engineers at Google right now that only have boot camp or self-taught experience.
So you're saying that you see boot campers like from all levels of or all types of industries at all different levels.
Yep.
Yeah. And I think that, like, knowing you always talk about your kids, and like the reason you love tech is because it's like a flexible career option. It allows you to do your variety of hobbies and be with your family. So I guess as a backdrop, 10 years ago, there was a lot of discussion about Silicon Valley, Northern California, and people were flooding there because people thought that like you had to be there to be relevant at all in tech. So, you know, as a freelancer, as a father, as a front-end developer at Skillcrush, what do you think makes tech such a flexible career option?
I'm very excited to talk about this one. I love this one. All right. So first, I'm going to address this slide head on. I know engineers at Apple, Google, and Amazon. They all work remotely outside of California. There are a few exceptions that work in California, but even then, those work remotely. And it really seems like for most companies over there, you kind of have an option or you're working hybrid. So as we've seen, remote work has become increasingly accessible. We all went through COVID and we saw that we had to all adjust. And it wasn't just in tech. During all that, you know, it was really the majority of non-customer facing positions. So yeah, 6 in 10 US workers report their jobs can be performed at home. They say they worked from home all or most of the time this year. That's according to Pew Research Center. And we're seeing even more companies adding to remote or hybrid positions. So the job market is adjusting accordingly. Hybrid work is expected to increase from 42% at the beginning of this year, all the way up to 55% into 2023 and beyond. That's according to Gallup. But for me, I think tech work just inherently lends itself really well to remote work, especially if you're going to be working as a developer or an engineer. You know, you have your video call apps for meetings, and, you know, when we're working together, we have version control for our code bases. And then there's so many other tools just to work collaboratively, just as you would in the office. And it makes tech such a flexible career option because you really can code or design from anywhere, which is really good for people like me that has been living in small towns across West Virginia and Ohio for over a decade.
Yeah, I mean, and you mentioned, I mean, first, you have a lot of friends in tech because you've mentioned them at almost every single like tech company. But second, I think when you talked about these, you mentioned actually some of like what's considered like big tech. And I think when people think about like tech, uh, our minds naturally go to like the Amazons and Meta, and we have this. I mean, there's this kind of almost assumption that all the tech jobs are in these companies, like all the big tech is all the jobs. But when you're thinking of like tech, is it like just in these industries, or how are all how are all companies tech related?
I got you. I have a lot to say about this. Okay, so like he just said, when we're talking about big tech, we're usually talking about Fang or Mang. So that's the companies, Facebook, now Meta. You got Amazon, Apple, Netflix, and Google, right? But every company is a tech company. You know, every company has a website, even little mom and pop shops, right? Most companies are going to have an app and some sort of social media presence. So in one way or another, they are tech companies. When we think of tech companies, there's like so many different ways to contribute. Now, don't get me wrong, if working in big tech is like your ultimate goal, tech industry employment is absolutely an option. But if you want to maintain your roots in your current field or something you're just really passionate about and you want to get into, and whether that's like healthcare, education, finance, there are plenty of opportunities for tech employment there as well. When I was, this is just a short story. When I was a TA here at Skillcrush, that's a teaching assistant. One of the students I used to have a mentorship with, he was a teacher, and he just had an opportunity to kind of like expose his students to some basic coding and computer science principles in the classroom. And now after going through Bacon to Tech with us, he landed a job and he's teaching programming full time. So that's an example of a tech transition, but he's still in education, something that he's passionate about and more importantly, familiar with. So listen to this. CompTIA, which is, if you are unfamiliar, it's the Computing Technology Industry Association. So think like certifications like A+, Network+, Security+, things like that. They projected that 8.9 million professionals worked in tech this year. That's million. That goes directly against the tech myth that these jobs are all held within big tech or Mang. So I'm telling you, you don't have to work at a technology or software company to work in tech. As an example, in October of this year, the top industries posting tech positions included, I won't read all of them, but you might be surprised to hear some of these. You have finance and insurance, manufacturing, retail trade, healthcare and social assistance, educational services, transportation and warehousing, even administration and support, and so much more.
I literally keep forgetting to change slides because I am so like engulfed. Because like, let's see, what? Yeah, okay, here we go. I was just so engulfed with what you were saying that I was like, no, keep going. Like, but I realized that time is ticking. So thank you, Noel, because I love talking to you guys. I always feel like I learned something new every time I talk to any of you guys. And thank you everybody who has been sharing in our panel. I just think that like you all, I'm so honored to have you all here because I think you're just the people on the panel just show such a diverse set of career paths. Like you could go freelancer, you can go front end, you can go into the teaching route, you can be a full-time worker at Walmart Global Tech, you can start your own business. So I just love hearing what you guys say. And before we go into our QA portion, I just wanted to ask you guys one last question to the entire panel, which is, why are you proud to be part of the Skillcrush community? I will start with Jenny.
I'm proud to rep the Skillcrush community because of its inclusivity, and also the optimism that doesn't exist in other boot camps. I feel like other boot camps are about competition and you being the best. Skillcrush is really about you being your best, and that's why I'm proud to be a part of it.
I love that. Skillcrush being your best. You just created the new tagline for 2023. Thank you. No, how about you? I'm just going left to right. Oh. No.
That was great timing. I was drinking some
I
more.
know, I didn't know you were taking a sip right now.
As soon as I pulled it to my face. This is a hard one to answer, I feel like, because I'd have so many answers and I could probably go on forever. But I will say that I don't know if Lisa's here, but our TA Lisa, back when we were partners in crime and we were in the support together, we always had kind of like a saying we said about us changing lives with helping people. So I'm going to stick to that. I'm proud to be part of the Skillcrush community because we're changing lives.
Love that. I'll go to you next, Anne.
Well, that was pretty much what I was gonna say. No, thanks. But no, I mean, it is such a privilege to be in my position and to be part of the journey of our students that I feel lucky every day to be in this position. And it's just we spend so much of our time just celebrating with the wins of our students, and it's just such a great feeling to again be part of this whole life-changing process. So I think that is also my favorite part.
Yeah,
working
I
here.
love it, and the boot camp with a heart, the coding school with a heart. It just is. I see it every single day, and save the CEO and founder for last, Ada. There's a lot for you to be proud of.
No pressure. Yeah, I mean, I think that traditionally there's this idea of like teacher and student, right? And like some sort of hierarchy there. But I think just, you have to remember for me, Anne was a student and then Noel was a student and Jordan will be a student. And, and Jenny, I guess like, I don't think I should have to explain to anyone how.
Not this one.
Sorry.
Not this
Sweetheart,
one.
give me 1 second. How enriching it is for anyone who is on this side of the Skillcrush. The students that come to Skillcrush are the most phenomenal people. Like anyone who sort of self-selects into this career path and goes for it and commits to this program. And, they're just the most phenomenal people and they come from all over the world and we get the opportunity to get to know them and learn from them and have them, contribute to the community and be a part of the community. And it's like the best gift that I've ever given myself. And I'm just really grateful to keep getting it, 10 years in. So thank you to all of you.
I can truly attest to that because literally every single person I've met is the most wonderful and amazing person, and I respect all you guys so much. So that being said, I know there's a ton of questions, so I wanted to save a couple more minutes. We only have 2. We had a lot, ambitious, but 2 minutes just to kind of go through any of your most burning questions. So let me just go through this. Anxiety kills me during the interview. How did you shake it off? I guess that might be a question for Bedelia or Tiff, who's not.
I could just quick answer to that. Preparation and practice. Breaking the Tech has opportunities for you to do mock interviews. I would recommend taking advantage of that. There's so many resources about the most commonly asked questions. And I've done interviews at my job already, and we just pull them from those sites, literally. So if you're prepared, and then the last thing is have confidence in yourself, have confidence in your experience, that it's valuable and that you're a valuable employee and they'd be lucky to have you. And it takes a few reps to get good at it, but you feel more confident the more you do it.
Yeah. And I mean, if you join the job hunting during the holidays and listen to Bedelia and Tiff, or Tiff's our other career coach talk, like they are incredible and they truly help you like sell like your transferable skills and like your previous backgrounds and kind of like build your own story. And I know there's another question since there's a lot of alumni on this panel. Samantha asked, I want to restart and try the program again after having to abruptly stop for a few months. Can you talk about the pros, cons, and tips? If anybody has any insight there.
Yeah. So I've been there. I took a break from Python for a few years after starting to learn. The pros are you're starting fresh. Any burnout that you had is probably gone. And you know what went wrong the first time. So you should be able to correct that, or at least you should definitely focus on really being honest with yourself about what didn't work the first time. The cons are definitely going to be that you're going to forget a bunch, and the beginner frustration that sometimes you get learning new things is probably going to come back, but eventually it'll start coming to you.
Thank you, Noel. And I had one more, which I know that your son is right there and he might have something to say here, Otto, but if you could, Helen asked, what has changed? I know you just did the ageism webinar and we've been talking about this a lot. What has changed for someone in their upper 50s that they can benefit from? And are there any benefits to making this career change at this age?
I think there's two ways to think about that question. So one is like, do people in that age have some sort of advantage versus just like, is there a benefit to you to making this career change? And I think these are really, really personal questions, but I guess I will say, without knowing more about their situation, I think that this is a really like if we think about like if 10 years ago was about like tech work and remote work, I would say like the next big thing is like people in their 50s and 60s and work. This is like the big sort of demographic workforce thing. And so I think that like you're in great company. I think that you have a lot more years to work and a lot more years to live. And, you know, I wouldn't like, we obviously think ageism is like, you know, a scam that we all need to fight with every available like, you know, thing we have going. So if you are interested and excited and, you know, inspired, like, you know, how Jenny described being about making your career change, like, absolutely go for it. Absolutely. We're here to support you. And just know that like, you are the opposite of alone. You are sort of like, you know, you are like the froth on like a tidal wave that is about to hit like the job market and the economy. And yeah, I don't know. Yeah. I hope that helps. This is a very big topic that we spend a lot of time talking about, so it's hard to address it quickly, but
it's hard at the tail ends of the hour and trying to capture it in like a minute or two. But for those who are curious, you could always email us. I'll drop it in the chat at hello@skillcrush.com. Did that go? That's our email. Please feel free to reach out if you have any additional questions, because unfortunately the hour has ran up. We're actually a little bit over time. I apologize. So thank you to the incredible panel of guests. I love you and adore you, each and every one of you. Congratulations to Skillcrush on 10 years. And may we say that we have cheers to another decade. So thank you everybody for coming. Have a beautiful day and we'll talk soon. Bye.
Thank you, Jordan.
Thanks, Jordan. Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays.